You look at Putin when he was on the move with Xi Jinping, the friendship, with no limits. You look at this now. These recent comments just within the past hour breaking of what Putin says about not ruling out supplying high precision weapons to North Korea. What's your biggest concern and takeaway for this, especially in the world we live in today, where there are so many other things that the U.S. is contending with, the war in the Middle East and the war in Ukraine as well, sir? This is just another thing on the plate here for Joe Biden and our military.
Right. Well, I think it's all really part of the same package. And I think it's a reflection of the increased cooperation between Russia and China, the axis they're forming. It's not completely in place. There's still a lot of tensions between the two countries. But Putin's visit to North Korea shows how critical it is for Russia to keep the war going against Ukraine, that it gets artillery and ammunition from this hereditary communist dictatorship. From Kim Jong Un's point of view, it shows what a threat he is in Northeast Asia and why North Korea's continued pursuit of nuclear weapons is enormously dangerous to the U.S., Japan, South Korea, which we haven't dealt with effectively in 30 years. And I think Putin's stop in Vietnam is not coincidental either. So this is you can look at the war in Ukraine, the war that Iran is fighting against Israel through its terrorist proxies in the Middle East, the threat that North Korea poses in Northeast Asia and around the world, the threat China poses to Taiwan and the South China Sea. It's a very threatening world, very threatening to America and its security interest, and we're not doing nearly enough to provide for what we need to withstand these challenges.
Indeed, and I think while they are at the G7 announcing sanctions, the ability we see from them to team up behind, and they can still do business and avoid any type of sanction, is a really important thing to underscore here. While the U.S. comes out and says this, they're able to skirt it, they're able to continue on, and with their, our adversaries able to say, that's okay. Like, it's thumbing the nose in anything the U.S. does, and that's just not a good place for us to be.
Right. Well, I think European and American sanctions against Russia, particularly in the oil and gas sector, have been a complete failure. Part of it was motivated by the strange way the sanctions were put together to try and keep down price increases for gasoline at the pump in America for Biden's own reelection purposes. And as you rightly mentioned, the G7, where they were talking about Ukraine, Russia was showing that it still had clout around the world by sending a nuclear-powered submarine and an advanced frigate to make port in Havana, Cuba, harkening back to Cold War days. And then that group of ships and that sub went on probably to Venezuela. So they were putting their thumb in our eye right in the middle of the G7 meeting and reminding countries in this hemisphere that Russia is still a force to be reckoned with, and we don't have a good answer for them when that happens.
No, we don't. You could see the sub reportedly off of Miami Beach. It's pretty incredible times we're living in, Ambassador. Our final thought here, and I'd like to get your take on this morning. House Intelligence Chairman Mike Turner is very warning about these, the capabilities of Russia. With the space, the nuclear, saying that the Biden administration, he says, is sleepwalking into a potential catastrophe, he says, into a modern-day Cuban Missile Crisis in space. So it's not just land, it's not just sea. We're talking about the space as well. Where do you see that going, and how Russia, is this just all smoke and mirrors with them, or is this something they're actually looking at as another type of warfare that we may not be prepared for here?
Well, I think the chairman's comments are very important here. I hope people take them seriously and look into them in detail. And I think they match up in a way with what Senator Wicker of Mississippi was saying on the Senate side about our inadequate defense budget. When the American people have threats explained to them, when they're told what the situation is in the world honestly and what we need to do to protect ourselves, historically, we have always stepped up to it. But if politicians ignore it, if they act like what's going on in the rest of the world doesn't concern us, then we're not going to be ready. And we're going to pay the price. We can either pay it now in a systematic, logical, strategic way to try and prevent threats by deterrence, or we'll have to pay a much larger price if we're not ready. That's the historical experience.
I think the same goes for what we're being told about our southern border as well, where we saw terrorists with ISIS ties